Pressure point, Logan explained casually, as if giving a normal lecture while wrestling with a deadly predator. Most vertebrate analogs have them. This one's got a nerve cluster right here. The human's fingers pressed firmly against a spot where the creature's scales formed a subtle pattern. The effect was immediate. The sand striker went rigid, its muscles locked in paralysis. Temporary, Logan assured us, still maintaining the hold. Just puts them into a state similar to tonic immobility. Can someone grab the backup containment unit from the prep room? Nobody moved. We were all too shocked by what we had just witnessed. Fine, Logan sighed. Professor Zilnox? The backup containment unit? Where is it? A trembling appendage emerged from beneath the console, pointing toward a storage compartment. Great. Now I need someone brave enough to get it while I keep our friend here subdued. To my eternal surprise, I found myself volunteering. Perhaps it was scientific curiosity, or perhaps it was the strange confidence that emanated from a human. Either way, I floated forward on my gravitational nodes and retrieved the portable containment unit. Perfect. Logan nodded approvingly. Now open it up and place it right here. With trembling appendages, I did as instructed. The human smoothly maneuvered the paralyzed predator into the unit, and I quickly sealed it. And that, Logan announced to the stunned classroom as the emergency systems finally kicked in and security personnel flooded the room, is why understanding predator psychology is just as important as studying their physical attributes. It's about respecting their capabilities while recognizing their limitations. Professor Zilnox emerged from his hiding place, his color pattern slowly returning to normal. Mr. Reed, he said, his voice modulator still shaking, that was the most irregular guest lecture this institution has ever hosted. Thank you, Logan replied with apparent sincerity. It wasn't a compliment, Professor Zilnox clarified. I know, Logan winked, another strange human gesture. But on Earth, we take pride in being irregular. As the security teams secured the classroom and medical droids attended to traumatized students, I found myself hovering closer to the human. How did you know what to do? I asked, my curiosity overriding my fear. Were you not afraid? Logan considered the question seriously. Of course I was afraid. Fear is useful. It sharpens your senses, speeds your reactions. But humans have something special. We don't just feel fear. We use it. Use it? Yeah. We turn into something else. Sometimes we call it courage, sometimes adrenaline, sometimes just plain stubbornness. But really, it's about making fear work for you instead of against you. I contemplated this strange concept as the classroom gradually returned to some semblance of order. The sand striker, now securely contained, watched us all with those calculating eyes. There's something else you should know about humans, Logan added, voice lowered conspiratorially. What's that? I asked, leaning closer despite myself. Logan grinned. That wasn't even the dangerous part of my lecture. Wait until you see what I have planned for tomorrow's demonstration. As the human walked away to help with cleanup efforts, I felt a strange mixture of terror and anticipation. For the first time, I understood why humans were classified as Deathworlders. It wasn't just their planet that was dangerous. It was their minds, their ability to dance with danger and somehow turn terror into opportunity. And against all logic, I found myself looking forward to tomorrow's lecture. Perhaps there was something contagious about human madness after all. News of the incident spread across campus faster than a quantum entanglement signal. By the time I arrived for the second day of Logan Reed's guest lectures, the classroom was packed to capacity. Students from other departments had squeezed in, eager to witness the infamous human in action. Can you believe we are actually coming back? Whispered Trax as we settled into our hover seats. After what happened yesterday, my tertiary brainstem is still pulsating with stress hormones. I know, I replied, adjusting my sensory stock for optimal viewing. But aren't you curious? I've spent all night in the archives studying human behavioral patterns, and I still can't make sense of their risk assessment algorithms. Professor Zilnox entered the lecture hall, flanked by no fewer than 6 security drones and what appeared to be the dean of XenoBiology herself. The dean's ceremonial color patterns were muted today, likely a sign of extreme administrative displeasure. Before we begin, Professor Zilnox announced, his voice modulator set to authoritative mode, I must inform you that today's demonstration has been significantly modified following yesterday's unexpected developments. The university's Safety Council has implemented 17 additional protocols. A disappointed murmur rippled through the classroom. Furthermore, the professor continued, Mr. Reed has been explicitly forbidden from bringing any live specimens classified above Class 2. The door hissed open, and Logan strode in, that unnerving human smile already plastered across their face. The dean's color patterns briefly flashed crimson, the universal academic signal for I'm watching you. Morning, everyone, Logan called out cheerfully, as if oblivious to the tension vibrating through the room. Great turnout today. I see we have some new faces. I noticed the human was carrying a small container under one arm. Despite Professor Zilnox's assurances, I found myself instinctively calculating the distance to the nearest emergency exit. Yesterday, Logan began, setting the container on the demonstration table. We discussed predator psychology. Today, we are going to explore something even more fascinating: the relationship between predatory adaptations and intelligence. The dean's appendages twitched nervously. Don't worry, Logan assured her, correctly interpreting the gesture. Today's demonstration is completely safe. Scout's honor. The human held up 3 fingers in some incomprehensible ritual gesture. As I was saying, across the galaxy, there's a correlation between predatory behavior and certain types of intelligence. Not necessarily greater intelligence. That's a common misconception, but specialized forms of problem-solving ability. Logan tapped the container. In here is a perfect example, a Class 2 organism from Earth called an octopus. The container's sides turned transparent, revealing a strange, fluid creature floating in water. It had a bulbous head and 8 tentacular limbs that moved with hypnotic grace. Most disturbing was its eye, a horizontal slit that seemed unnervingly aware as it observed us observing it. Despite having a fundamentally different neural structure than vertebrates, octopuses display remarkable problem-solving abilities, Logan explained, slipping into what I was beginning to recognize as lecture mode. They can open jars, navigate mazes, use tools, and even engage in what appears to be play behavior. But they're not a threat to sentient life forms? Asked a nervous Flaxian student near the front. Logan laughed. Not unless you are a crab. But they illustrate something important about predator intelligence. Watch this. The human placed what appeared to be a transparent puzzle box into the water. Inside the box was a small morsel of food. The octopus immediately approached, its tentacles exploring the container's surface. The puzzle requires 3 distinct steps to open, Logan explained. First, rotating this outer ring, then pressing these 2 levers simultaneously, and finally sliding the top panel. We watched, fascinated despite ourselves, as the octopus methodically worked through the puzzle. Within minutes, it had accessed the food. Impressive, admitted Vrack, but I fail to see how this relates to your species. Humans don't have tentacles or the ability to change color patterns. Excellent point. Logan seemed genuinely pleased by the question. Our adaptations are different but serve similar functions. Where the octopus has distributed neural processing, literally thinking with its arms, humans developed centralized brains with specialized regions for pattern recognition, strategic planning, and social coordination. Both are adaptations that help us hunt effectively. The dean's color patterns had relaxed somewhat, shifting from alarmed crimson to cautious amber. But surely, she interjected, predatory behavior is primitive compared to the cooperative evolutionary paths taken by more advanced species. I winced at the thinly veiled insult. Logan, however, appeared unfazed. That's a common assumption, the human replied diplomatically. But evolution doesn't work in a straight line from primitive to advanced. Different environmental pressures select for different traits. Cooperation is indeed valuable. Humans are actually intensely social creatures. But our predatory heritage gave us tools that cooperation alone couldn't provide, such as, prompted Professor Zilnox, seemingly genuinely curious now. Persistence, Logan answered immediately. Humans can't run as fast as many prey animals, but we can run longer. We literally chase prey until they collapse from exhaustion. This required not just physical endurance, but predictive intelligence, tracking skills, understanding animal behavior patterns, anticipating where prey would go. The human began pacing the front of the classroom, that strange, restless energy manifesting physically. And then there's our tool use. Unable to compete with natural weapons like claws or fangs, we developed artificial ones. This required abstract thinking, planning, and manual dexterity. Professor Zilnox's fourth appendage trembled slightly as he adjusted the environmental controls. The classroom temperature had been carefully calibrated to accommodate all 23 species present, which meant nobody was particularly comfortable. Least of all me. "Is it just me?" whispered Trax from behind his breathing apparatus. "Or does the professor look more nervous than usual today?" I flicked my sensory stalks in the direction of our instructor. Trax was right. All 6 of Professor Zilnox's membranes were blinking rapidly, a sure sign of McLaren anxiety. "Today's practical demonstration," announced Professor Zilnox, his voice modulator crackling with static, "will focus on Class 4 predatory adaptations. We are extraordinarily fortunate to have with us a special guest lecturer." The classroom doors hissed open, and a collective gasp rippled through the students. A human walked in. Not just any human, mind you. This one was particularly tall, with a shock of bright hair atop, its head like some kind of warning display. I instinctively retreated several units backward in my hover seat. "Everyone," Professor Zilnox's voice quavered, "please welcome Logan Reed from Earth, our visiting XenoBiology researcher." The human smiled, revealing those horrifying flat teeth that could tear through vegetation and flesh with equal ease. I had never seen a Deathworlder up close before. 3 of my classmates immediately activated their emergency stress shields. "Hey everyone!" The human's voice boomed through the lecture hall with unnecessary volume. "Super excited to be here. Who's ready to learn about predators?" No one raised an appendage. The humans seemed undeterred. "Tough crowd," Logan muttered before turning to address Professor Zilnox. "Should we bring out the specimen now?" Professor Zilnox's color pattern shifted to a sickly blue-green. "Are you certain you can control it?" Logan laughed. Actually laughed. "About a Class 4 predator. Don't worry, Professor. This is basically a kitten compared to what we have back home." "A kitten?" I frantically searched my translation implant for the meaning. "A juvenile feline predator from Earth." Was this human planning to release a predatory creature into our classroom? My respiratory sacs constricted in panic. "Before we begin," Logan announced, pacing the front of the classroom with those unsettlingly efficient bipedal movements, "let's talk about what makes a successful predator." "Anyone?" Silence filled the room. Even Vrak, our class know-it-all, kept all 4 of his mouth parts firmly closed. "No one." Logan raised an eyebrow, that strange strip of fur above their visual organs. "Okay, let's break it down. Successful predators typically have keen senses, efficient locomotion, and effective weapon systems. What's missing from that list? More silence. Psychological adaptations," Logan exclaimed, slapping a hand against the lectern with a disturbing crack. "The most successful predators aren't just physically adapted to hunt. They are mentally equipped too. They have got patience, problem-solving abilities, and the capacity to learn from failure." "Excuse me," came a timid voice from the back. It was Nix, a Paloran exchange student whose species were notorious cowards. "But isn't it inappropriate to discuss such violent topics in an academic setting?" Logan blinked those wet, exposed eyeballs. "Violent? Nature isn't violent. It's just efficient. Predator-prey relationships are fundamental to evolution across the galaxy. It's not about violence. It's about survival." "That's easy for you to say," Trax muttered behind me. "Your whole planet is a death trap." Unfortunately, Logan heard him. Those human ears, unprotected by sensible bone coverings, apparently had remarkable sensitivity. "Earth is challenging, sure," Logan admitted with another of those teeth-baring gestures. "But that's what makes it interesting." Which brings me to today's practical demonstration. Logan gestured toward the side door, and 2 security drones floated in, carrying between them a transparent containment unit. Inside was a creature so terrifying that 3 students immediately passed out and had to be attended to by the medical bots. The creature was approximately half the size of the human, covered in scales that shifted from emerald to obsidian, depending on how the light hit them. 6 limbs ended in wickedly curved talons, and a jaw filled with serrated teeth occupied nearly a third of its body mass. Its eyes, All 8 of them swiveled independently, tracking every movement in the room. This, Logan announced proudly, as if introducing a beloved family member, is a Martian sandstriker, one of the first Earth-originated species to successfully adapt to Mars colonies. They have developed quite differently from their Earth ancestors due to the reduced gravity and unique environmental pressures. Professor Zilnox was now huddled behind his teaching console, only the tips of his eye stalks visible. "Mr. Reed," he squeaked, "I was under the impression you would be bringing a holographic simulation." "Holograms? Where's the fun in that?" Logan waved dismissively. "Don't worry, this containment unit is rated for Class 6 predators. This little guy is only a Class 4. Only a Class 4? I couldn't help but exclaim, my voice modulator pitching higher than I intended. That's still capable of consuming most students in this room. Logan looked at me, those unsettlingly direct human eyes focusing on my central core. True, but that's why we have the containment unit. Today, we are going to observe hunting behaviors in a controlled environment. What will it be hunting? Asked Vrak, his academic curiosity finally overcoming his survival instincts. That's when Logan smiled again, but different this time. A predator's smile. Excellent question. The human reached into a pouch attached to their body covering and pulled out a small device. With a flick of one of those dexterous 5-digit hands, the device activated, projecting a holographic rabbit into the containment unit. The sandstriker immediately froze, all 8 eyes locked onto the hopping projection. Its body lowered, muscles bunching beneath those iridescent scales. "Watch closely," Logan whispered, somehow making the whisper carry to every corner of the room. "See how it calculates? It's not just reacting, it's thinking, planning." Despite my terror, I had to admit it was fascinating. The predator's movements were precise, economical. No wasted energy. "Now," Logan continued, "I'm going to show you something really interesting. Watch what happens when I change the environmental variables." The human adjusted the device, and suddenly the holographic rabbit disappeared, replaced by dense foliage. The sandstriker immediately changed tactics, its scales shifting to match the new environment. It moved differently now, using cover, stalking through the virtual underbrush with chilling patience. Adaptive hunting strategies, Logan explained. Not just camouflage, but behavioral adaptation. This is why predators are often among the most intelligent species on any given world, including humans. The question came from Zik, a typically silent Andorian. Logan's face did something complicated then, an expression my translation implant couldn't quite categorize. That's a complex question. Humans evolved as persistence predators, but we are omnivores. Our predatory adaptations are subtle. Endurance, problem-solving, social coordination for group hunts. "You don't look very predatory," Trax observed, apparently forgetting his fear in the face of scientific inquiry. Logan laughed again. "That's part of our advantage. We don't need to look scary when we have these." The human tapped their cranium. "Our best weapons are in here." And then, with timing so perfect it seemed staged, disaster struck that a power fluctuation, later determined to be caused by an unexpected solar flare, briefly disrupted the containment field. It was only for 2.3 seconds, but that was enough. The sandstriker sensed the weakness and launched itself at the barrier with terrifying precision. The resulting explosion of sparks and emergency alarms sent the classroom into chaos. Students scrambled for exits, activated personal shields, or simply froze in terror. Professor Zilnox emitted a high-pitched squeal and disappeared entirely beneath his console. And the sandstriker? It was loose in the classroom, its predatory focus immediately shifting to the nearest moving target. Nix, the Paloran exchange student who had questioned the violence of nature just minutes before. What happened next would be discussed in whispered conversations throughout the university for academic cycles to come. Logan Reed moved, not with panic or fear, but with the same economical precision we had just observed in the sandstriker. While everyone else was fleeing away from the predator, the human moved directly toward it. "Hey, ugly," Logan shouted, drawing the creature's attention. "Looking for something to chase?" All 8 eyes swiveled toward the human, who was now standing in the center of the classroom, completely exposed. The sandstriker let out a bone-chilling hiss and changed direction, abandoning its pursuit of Nix. That's right, Logan muttered, "Come to mama." I couldn't look away, despite every survival instinct screaming at me to flee. The human stood there, seemingly relaxed, yet somehow coiled with potential energy. The sand striker approached cautiously, sensing something dangerous about this prey that didn't flee. When the striker lunged, Logan moved with shocking speed, sidestepping the attack while simultaneously reaching out to grab the creature behind its primary sensory cluster, a blind spot in its vision. Logan paused, surveying the room, which brings me to today's main demonstration. The human reached beneath the demonstration table and pulled out what appeared to be a simple stick with a sharpened stone attached to one end. This, Logan announced with inexplicable reverence, is a recreation of one of humanity's earliest weapons, the spear. Deceptively simple, but it fundamentally changed our relationship with the predator-prey dynamics of our world. "It's just a stick," Trax whispered. Sounding disappointed, Logan's hearing picked up the comment again. "Just a stick?" This stick let a slow, clawless, fangless primate take down predators 3 times its size. It extended our reach, concentrated force into a small point, and most importantly, kept us at a safer distance from danger. The human hefted the primitive weapon with practiced ease. The physical principles are simple, but the cognitive leap was revolutionary. Imagining a tool that didn't yet exist, gathering materials, crafting it according to a mental blueprint, and then using it effectively. These are profoundly complex intellectual tasks. "Excuse me," interrupted a Procyon student I didn't recognize, "but isn't this just primitive technology? Most spacefaring species developed similar tools before achieving sentience." Did they? Logan raised an eyebrow. Or did they develop different tools suited to their evolutionary path? The point isn't the specific technology, it's how our predatory adaptations shaped our thinking. Humans became apex predators not through physical superiority, but through pattern recognition, persistence, and tool innovation. We didn't just adapt to our environment. We adapted our environment to us. The octopus in the container had solved the puzzle 3 more times during Logan's speech, each time more efficiently than the last. "Look at our 8-armed friend here." Logan gestured toward the container. In its own environment, it's a formidable predator. On land, it would struggle to survive. Evolution doesn't create perfect organisms, just ones that work well enough in their specific context. And humans, I found myself asking, what is your specific context? Logan's expression changed to something more thoughtful. That's the interesting thing. Humans evolved to be adaptable rather than specialized. We are not the strongest, fastest, or most environmentally tolerant species. But we are generalists who can survive in almost any environment, from Arctic tundra to tropical jungle, from deep sea to the vacuum of space. The human placed the spear carefully back on the table, which brings me to the real point of today's lecture. The most dangerous predatory adaptation isn't physical at all. It's adaptability itself. A hushed silence fell over the classroom. Even the security drones seemed to be paying attention. To demonstrate this concept, Logan continued, "I need a volunteer." No one moved. After yesterday's chaos, volunteering for a human demonstration seemed like requesting a personal meeting with the void. "No takers." Logan sighed dramatically. "I promise no one will be in any danger." Against my better judgment, I raised an appendage. Perhaps it was scientific curiosity, or perhaps it was the lingering effects of witnessing Logan subdue the sand striker. Either way, I found myself floating toward the front of the classroom. "Perfect," Logan beamed. "What's your name again?" "Calix," I replied, trying to keep my voice modulator steady. "Calix is going to help me demonstrate human adaptability," Logan announced. "Now, Calix, I understand your species evolved on a low-gravity moon with minimal environmental threats, correct?" "Yes," I confirmed. Toxpila Minor has 0.3 standard gravity and no predatory species larger than a nutrient filter. "Right. So your evolutionary pressures selected for efficient energy use, sensory acuity, and intellectual development rather than physical defenses or aggression." "Correct again," I said, impressed by the human's knowledge. "Perfect." Logan reached into a pocket and produced a small object. This is a standard puzzle cube from Earth. Children's toy, really. The goal is to match colors on all 6 sides by rotating the segments. The human handed me the cube. It was pleasantly solid in my manipulatory appendages, its surfaces smooth and colorful. "Now, Logan continued, "I'd like you to solve it. Take your time." I examined the puzzle, quickly grasping its mechanics. The solution required spatial reasoning, moving pieces in sequence to achieve the desired pattern. After approximately 3 minutes of concentration, I successfully completed the puzzle. "Well done," Logan applauded. 3 minutes, 17 seconds. That's quite impressive for a first attempt. I felt an unexpected flush of pride at the human's approval. "Now," Logan said, taking back the cube, "watch me." The human's fingers flew over the cube's surfaces, rotating and shifting with bewildering speed. Within 30 seconds, the puzzle was solved. "How did you—" I began. "Pattern recognition," Logan explained. "I have done this thousands of times. My brain has mapped the sequences, the algorithms, the shortcuts. But here's the really interesting part." Logan reset the cube, thoroughly mixing the colors. "Now I'm going to solve it blindfolded." The human pulled a cloth from another pocket and wrapped it around those vulnerable eyes. Then, to my astonishment, Logan began manipulating the cube again, unable to see the colors or positions. "The first time I tried this," Logan explained while those dexterous fingers continued to work, "it seemed impossible. But humans adapt. We create mental models. We memorize sequences. We find patterns in chaos." With a final twist, Logan removed the blindfold and displayed the solved cube. The classroom erupted in astonished murmurs. "That's impossible," protested Vrack. "You must have some kind of technological assistance." "Nope," Logan grinned. "Just a standard human brain and lots of practice." And that's my point. Humans are dangerous not because we are physically imposing, but because we adapt. We see a problem, we practice, we master it. Then we find a harder problem. The dean's color patterns had shifted to a begrudging blue-violet of academic appreciation. "Thank you, Calix," Logan said, gesturing for me to return to my seat. "You have helped illustrate something important. Your species solved the puzzle through pure spatial reasoning, the way it's meant to be solved. I solved it through pattern recognition and memory, adapting my approach to overcome my limitations." As I returned to my hover seat, Logan addressed the entire class once more. "Yesterday's incident with the sand striker wasn't in my lesson plan," the human admitted, "but perfectly demonstrated my point today. When that containment field failed, I didn't have time to think through all the possible responses. I relied on training, instinct, and adaptability." Logan picked up the primitive spear again, turning it slowly. "This simple tool represents the moment when humans change from prey to predator. Not because we became stronger or faster, but because we learned to adapt, to see a problem like a dangerous animal, and develop a solution that worked around our limitations." The human placed the spear back down. "The XenoBiology department asked me to speak about predatory adaptations because Earth is classified as a death world. But the real lesson isn't about physical danger. It's about how environmental challenges shape cognitive evolution." Logan's expression grew more serious. "As the galaxy becomes more interconnected, understanding different evolutionary paths becomes crucial. My species emerged from a high-threat environment that selected for certain traits. Yours may have evolved under completely different pressures. Neither is inherently superior, just different adaptations to different challenges." Professor Zilnox stepped forward. "Thank you, Mr. Reed, for that enlightening demonstration. Significantly less chaotic than yesterday's. I'm pleased to note." "I aim to please," Logan replied with that characteristic smile. "Though I should mention that among humans, I'm considered particularly risk-averse. You should meet my colleague, Dr. Patel. She studies megafauna predators by living among them." A collective shudder passed through the classroom. "Perhaps another time," Professor Zilnox replied hastily. "Now, students, please prepare your questions for our guest lecturer." Dozens of appendages immediately shot into the air. I noticed the dean herself had raised an inquiring tentacle as Logan fielded questions about human evolutionary history, Earth's predator hierarchies, and the psychological impact of evolving on a death world. I found myself contemplating everything I'd witnessed over these 2 remarkable days. The human had demonstrated not just physical capability in handling the sand striker, but a profound understanding of predator psychology. Today's lecture had revealed something even more significant: the cognitive adaptations that had allowed humans to thrive in an environment that should, by all logical measures, have eliminated them. What struck me most wasn't the physical prowess or the tool use, but the mindset. Where most species sought to minimize risk, humans seemed to calibrate it, accepting just enough danger to force adaptation without ensuring destruction. It was a precarious evolutionary strategy, but undeniably effective. As the lecture concluded and students began filing out, I lingered behind. Logan was carefully packing away the octopus, speaking softly to the creature as if it could understand. "You handled that well," I commented, approaching the demonstration table. Logan looked up surprised. "The lecture or the octopus?" "Both," I admitted. "You have given me much to consider about evolutionary pressures and cognitive development." "That's the highest compliment a lecturer can receive," Logan replied, securing the container. "Though I suspect Professor Zilnox will be relieved when I return to Earth next week. Will you come back?" I asked, surprised by my own genuine interest. Logan considered this. "I hope so. There's so much more to explore about comparative evolutionary psychology." "Besides," the human added with a conspiratorial whisper, "I have barely scratched the surface of Earth's predatory adaptations. Wait until you learn about pack hunting strategies." "I look forward to it," I replied, and realized with some surprise that I meant I teeted. I floated from the classroom. I activated my datapad and began composing a message to the XenoBiology department head. Perhaps it was time to reconsider my thesis topic. After all, if I wanted to understand the galaxy's most fascinating predatory adaptation, the human mind, I would need to study it directly. Behind me, I heard Logan laugh at something Professor Zilnox said. It wasn't the threatening sound it had seemed 2 days ago. Now it registered as something else entirely. An invitation to explore a different way of thinking, a different relationship with danger and uncertainty. Perhaps that was the most important lesson of all. In a universe of infinite diversity, understanding different evolutionary paths wasn't just academic curiosity. It was the key to genuine connection across the stars. And if that meant occasionally sharing a classroom with a Deathworlder and their pets, well, adaptation was the essence of evolution, after all.